Yo, what up guys, it's Flark and welcome to my update guide for 10.0.7. You probably know DK is in a weird spot right now. Frost may be a little better than Unholy because Frost is better into rets, which are literally everywhere. The whole season, the whole beginning of the expansion has been a little wild because of all the reworks and tuning passes and all of this change that they've done. It's made a bit of a roller coaster. It's like great, terrible, great, terrible, great, terrible. And I know that's been pretty rough to deal with, but as always, let me try and reel you back in and give you some hope. I know people say I'm hopium and copium and whatever other words that rhyme with that, but I'll give you my rationale as to why I think all of this is going to end up being a pretty decent thing for 10.1 to be a great season, maybe one of the best seasons we've had in a while. Well, that's not saying much. So certainly one of the best seasons we've had in a while. But yeah, if you need that, go to the timestamp below. I'll call it motivational message going onward to 10.1. I do think all of these changes are going to add up to being very valuable. And I like what I see out of 10.1 so far. But okay. Yeah, let's get right into it. This is going to be an essentials guide. So, you know, stats, the new talents that came out in 10.0.7, you know, just talking about that stuff. If you need rotational help, or cooldown management or comps to play, you can peep my channel. Just click my channel. I have that in my other videos, my earlier videos, and I will do it again in 10.1, that guide. But I don't think I'm going to do that in just a 10.0.7 like patch guide, so I think that's just too much. So let me get into it now. Okay, I'm going to start off with Frost DK stats here. Okay, so stats, I can give you two actual full sets of gear that I think I really, really like, and you are going to like too. They have minor differences, and I will explain them both. So let's start with just the general stuff. Of course, you have versatility on every PvP piece, so you're going to have plenty of that. And then haste and mastery are the big two. And they're the big two for Unholy as well, so gearing for this will actually gear you for both classes. Fantastic. Specs, rather. But yeah, the crit has value, especially for dual wield. It has value because it can proc KMs, and then procking KMs make them do so much more damage and give you ice cap value and all that good stuff. But haste helps with that as well, and haste also helps with the pillar window where you need faster globals to generate killing machine procs, and critical strike effectively does nothing during that because you could already generate your KMs through just frost strike and howling blast. So haste and mastery are just massive stats for doing as much damage as possible in a short period of time and really funneling as much pressure into that pillar window. So you're going to see me getting a lot of those. So how do I do that? Well, first you get a haste ring and a mastery ring. And then you get mastery boots with the PvP boots. And then you get haste mastery legs tier piece. And then you get this haste mastery belt. This is the tier belt, but you can get this. This is a PvE item, but you can get this. This is how. You take your PvP conquest belt, and you put it into the tier piece generator thing. And now you have this. Look at this. Look at this thing. Haste, substat, mastery, main stat. 400 mastery on it, not scaled up to 424. Wow. This is a fantastic belt. Yes, I get it. You're like, well, you sacrifice verse. Is that okay? I wouldn't be wearing it if it wasn't okay. You have so much verse from your PvP gear that you're almost in PvP. Like when, you know, when your stuff scales up, you're almost to the point of DR in the first season. In the first season of Dragonflight, you're already almost up to DR and versatility. You have a lot of versatility, and this is just such a good output generation waste. Like, as you're getting your best two output stats in, you're getting a ton of mastery. So yeah, put this in the tier, put your belt, your conquest belt, in the tier generator that you use to get your tier legs or your tier gloves, and you're good. Tier gloves. This is the first set, so let me show you now. Let me go through the other stuff that's... This is the tier bracers, so you can do the same thing with bracers. You don't have to because it just flips from verse main stat haste off stat to haste main stat verse off stat. That's what happens when you put these in the tier generator. I do that because I like output stats. Of course, you're getting the verse mastery two-handed weapon, and you can get your verse mastery cloak, and you can get your tier shoulders, and you can get your verse mastery necklace, which you can get 3 gem sockets on, and you can, here you go, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here are the subtle differences, right? Because I promised I would say that. One of them was those gloves we were looking at. So here's something else you could do. Instead of running Inferior Helm of Vengeance, which I do feel like does some damage since you get trained a lot. In fact, it does like 4% of my damage, which is good. I do recognize the value of doing this. So what did I just do? I switched to tier helmet instead of tier gloves, and then I put on the verse mastery gloves. Like, this is well known by this point, but you know, some people like me to explain stuff to them. So what happens here is you get an enormous amount more mastery because this helmet, the tier helmet, has a ton of mastery, and then you can get verse mastery gloves, which have mastery, right? So that just increased my mastery by a good amount, even more so when I hit the PvP dummy and get into PvP combat. The other thing you would do with something like this is put on a badge, right? So I had insignia before, which gave me haste, which is good for ice cap value, good for sustain, good for the 45-second go. And of course, I'll talk about what these things actually are in the talent build section, which there's timestamps for, so don't worry, you're not going to miss it. But yeah, this is the more on-demand damage. You get the big 1 minute go, the big pillar, right? Because this is a 1 minute cooldown, so you want to use the 1 minute go build. And then you badge with it, and maybe you have crit, which is not as useful, but the crit can bounce off of like chill streak bounces or rhyme proc crits or frost strike crits, you know, all of those things. And it's not a dead stat, of course. So this is just for that all in 1 minute go. So what did I do? I switched my helm to tier, I switched my gloves to verse mastery, and I put on a badge. But the more sustain oriented is grabbing insignia. Here's the gloves from tier. And then there's the Inferious Helm of Vengeance, which gives you extra damage, and it does end up being about 4% of your damage, which is a lot. It just doesn't matter for your obliterates during Pillar, which is the biggest win condition of Frost, without question. Everybody knows this. Okay. So those are the three pieces. So I'm just going to go through the most important points one more time, and then I'm moving on to talents. It doesn't have to be that long. I don't have to talk forever, but okay. So the most important points are that I got clearly haste mastery, verse mastery on every single piece that I could, including mastery and haste gems on every socket, of which I have every socket, right? Because I'm geared. Verse mastery, haste mastery, right? Verse mastery, haste verse, right? On everything. Here's the mastery cloak, here's the verse mastery necklace. Then there are three pieces you could swap out, and of course you get the 4 set. Everybody knows this. And then there are three pieces you could swap out. You could either go the mastery build, which is tier helm, mastery gloves, and then badge for the 1 minute monstrous go, or you could get a little bit more of a 45-second thing going on, which I prefer. And you grab the insignia because this has a chance of giving you value on multiple pillars rather than just every other pillar, because badge and 45-second pillar don't line up. It's a 1 minute cooldown on badge. And then you grab the tier gloves and Infurious to add just a little bit of damage overall, which does end up making a bit of difference when you have more damage in between goes, right? That's the whole point. Okay, so that's your stats. But the biggest thing that I wanted to show you here is this really cool belt. I mean, this is so cool. It's haste and main stat mastery. It's the greatest thing ever. Just go put your conquest belt into the tier piece generator, and now you're rocking this glorious extra mastery. Wow, it's so fun. Okay, cool. Great. So that's your gear. Okay. Do I need to talk about enchants? Runeforge is Fallen Crusader, enchants is mastery, and then all the other cool stuff that you already know, right? Speed, speeder leech. You could have leech if you want your big obliterate to heal you, which I do because you die a lot in solo shuffle right now, generally to rep paladins. But you can also put on speed. I did a mixture of both, right? You could put on speed because then you can run away from the rep paladins faster. Okay, I don't have to talk about that, right? I'm moving on. Cool. Okay, so some talent builds that came out at 10.0.7. This is the cool stuff. All right. So we're focusing on the right side first. Ignore the left side for now. The right side is the big change. I'll go over some stuff here, but not much. The right side is the big change. So Might of the Frozen Waste is gone. It's baked into our class now. Now we have Fatal Fixation, which is really cool. You know, stacking KMs allows you to funnel off a big 1-2 punch, right? And then we have the right side. We have Remorseless Winter baseline, which means the Remorseless Winter talent is now effectively baseline because you have to go that way. And it's so early that you're going to get it, which means you get a Rhyme proc for free and Remorseless Winter damage. That's pretty nice. But really, what this opened up is a way of getting a lot more talents on two-hander, which I did. So here's my first build. We actually skipped Fatal Fixation because I'm spending KMs effectively as I get them. Yes, this would help with munching, but there's not much munching in this build. And instead, I funnel in all of the extra sources of damage that you couldn't stack before as two-hander because you lost some talent points and you had to get Might of the Frozen Waste. So I get the Obliterate modifiers. I get Obliteration. Of course, I get ice cap in the full pillar window because, like I said, I do 45-second goes with Dead of Winter primarily. And then you get a icebreaker and you get chill streak with this. So I'm going to link these builds in the description, of course. This one is called the 45-second go. And the clear value to a 45-second go is, one, it's better at dealing with their defensives. You know, you can kind of put your offensive pressure off kilter with their defensives. And two, it scales with chill streak, right? So one of the things we got, everybody's talking about like, oh, okay, but you got fatal fixation, so you want to do the 1 minute go. And of course, that's very powerful. And I will be talking about that next. I'm not poo-pooing it at all. I think it's fantastic. But you also got benefit to the 45-second go because freeing up talents allowed you to go into chill streak more reliably and icebreaker, so you don't lose that. So you have the big howling blast hits, the big obliterates, all packaged together with the 45-second chill streak, which is 45 seconds, right? So you have 45-second pillar, 45-second chill streak, 45-second Dead of Winter, right? Remorseless Winter Stun becomes a 45-second cooldown. I'm reading that right? 45 seconds, right? So that's 45, 45, 45. And that's why the Ice Cap Pillar package, the Chill Streak, the Icebreaker, the everything kind of works together to give you a very, very impactful, almost as impactful as the 1 minute go, but 15 seconds earlier, so it's harder for them to deal with, and you'll be fitting more into the game because you know how fast solo shuffles can end. The more goes you can get off, the more likely you are to win. So this does feel really good right now. So of course I'll link to it in the description. This is the right side here. That's all that matters. The left side I've had the same since the beginning. But yeah, you of course need the double grip, so you go down the right side and grab double grip because Frost is a double grip gamer. Like you need to have that, so you can double grip, blind, AoE stun, nuke everything. It's fantastic. Okay. But if you don't want to do that, here's something you can do. Let me show you real quick. Boom, 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 boom. This is so easy to build now. We got Fatal Fixation, we got Icebreaker. Okay, so I just built the 1 minute build from the 45-second build. I didn't even have to have another loadout for it. That's how you know, these are really locked in right now. So what did I do right there? In fact, it might be useful to see what I did step by step. So first, I dropped the 45-second package. Ice Cap makes your pillar 45 seconds by reducing its cooldown, and then Enduring Strength effectively gives you a little bit more pressure outside of pillar. But if you're doing the 1 minute go, all you care about is that pillar 1 minute go, and then you're out of there, right? You dip, you run, you're gone. You just leave. You just sit on a pillar in chains and use your speed buffs to run away from them forever until you can do another 1 minute go. So you don't care about Enduring Strength, and you don't care about the thing that makes it less than a minute because that's counterintuitive, right? Okay, so that's against the point of the build, right? So you take those out, and it allows you to put them, one in Fatal Fixation, because again, the 1-2 punch, very impactful when you're just trying to end the game right then and there. Anytime you generate a killing machine and get a killing machine from Obliteration at the same time, you will have 2 stacks and you could go boom, boom, and both of those will hit insanely hard, and that feels really good. Okay, but then you put the other 2 free talents into Frostworm's Fury and Absolute Zero. Now, Absolute Zero and Frostworm's Fury is not a 1 minute cooldown, but it makes that first go so incredible that by the time your next go is up, there's no chance they were able to save anything for it, right? Because you grip, blind, Absolute Zero stun, which also does some damage, not much, but some damage. So it starts off the go with a on-demand stun, some damage, a fat pillar, obliterate, and then they trinket, and then your Remorseless Winter Stun goes off after that. Right, so with my 45-second go, that's one of the downsides. You only have Remorseless Winter Stun, which is kind of a ramp up, it builds up, and then they just trinket it, and then you're like, dang it. But with the Absolute Zero setup, you grip, blind, zero, hits them with Frostworm's Fury, does a bunch of damage, start obliterating them. Maybe you got a Fatal Fixation proc while you generate your first killing machine, which means you go obliterate. They're like, oh crap, panic trinket, wall, oops, I got Remorseless Winter stunned. And then you have all of this constant disruption and damage all baked into that one moment. After that moment, you've got nothing. So you have to run, right? You don't have Enduring Strength, you don't have Ice Cap, you have no reason to stay in, you just have to run. But on the next 1 minute go that's coming, you might not have Absolute Zero, you'll still have Grip, Blind, Remorseless Winter Stun, String, and you'll still have a pretty impactful go. But the real point is that they had to use everything in that first one because it's so dominant and they have nothing left. So again, what did we switch to? We dropped Enduring Strength, we dropped Ice Cap, we grabbed Fatal Fixation, Frostworm's Fury, and Absolute Zero, and you created just a behemoth of an opener, and it is so powerful. And those are the very, very impactful two-handed builds. And you're like, well, what about dual wield? You're always talking about dual wield. Well, actually, and this is crazy, dual wield and two-handed builds are even more close now than they were before. Remember, one of the biggest things that was different between them was that you had to take Might of the Frozen Waves for two-hander, and you didn't for dual wield, right? But now it's passive. So that talent doesn't even exist, which means anything you play with two-handed, you could technically play with dual wield. So if I reset this back to my 45-second go, well, that makes sense. Dual wield likes 45-second goes too. But one of the biggest things that dual wield still brings is it brings the second Rune Forge, which means it brings Razor Eyes. Right now, with my build, you can see I'm generating Razor Eyes with Avalanche, and I have Fallen Crusader on my weapon, which means I can't really play Shattering Strikes because my stacks stack up so slowly that I'm just losing too much value from losing Razor Eyes, and I'm not generating them fast enough to even get Shattering Blade value in the first place. But with dual wield, you absolutely can, because you have that auto attack Razor Eyes weapon, and you're just generating it and then spending it, generating it and then spending it. So what you would do then is you would drop, and this is really cool. This is the two-hander build, right? So I'm hands off the mouse right now. This is a two-handed build I just showed you. I've already showed you this. You're caught up. You've seen this. Here's how you make it a dual-wield build, right? You can just effectively take out either the 2 out of 2 in Icebreaker or the Chillstreak 2 out of 2 because it's got a buffing talent, right? So if it's a Wizard's Cleave, like on the solo shuffle on the other side, you see Wizards. They're not going to be stacking much. You're not getting a lot of value out of Chillstreak. You can just swap out of this. If it is a melee cleave, you probably still want Chillstreak, so you'll probably drop out of Icebreaker, the single target focused Icebringer, right? So, but here's how you do that. Okay, so let's say you're playing against Rat Warrior and you're playing a dual wield build. Okay, so you swap out of this and you do this. Boom, boom. And now you have a dual wield build, right? And why Fatal Fixation? Why is that better, do you think, for dual wield? Well, also, it's good in the two-handed 1 minute ago that I linked. But the one reason it's very, very valuable for dual wield is that killing machine stacking additional time is more important when you're generating a ton of killing machines. Because otherwise, if you're spending your killing machines right as you get them, this never comes into play. But if you're generating killing machines from auto attacks, which dual wield does more quickly, right? Then when you generate a killing machine from Obliterate and then generate one from auto attacks, this is more likely to come into play. And dual wield does that. So the Fatal Fixation is really impactful for dual wield, especially when you pair it with the 4-set, which makes it so you can get a killing machine effectively generated from a killing machine. You can just be rapid firing these things off, right? So you can have killing machine generated, double KM, then one of those KMs generates another KM, and then you have a KM, which means if you generate one, you get the 2-stack again, right? And you can see how Fatal Fixation helps save you from munching a ton of these, maybe like 5 or 10 in a burst window of killing machines that you would have effectively lost if you didn't have this double stack. So dual wield really gets a lot of value with that, and so does the hyper burst 1 minute two-hander go. But finally, then Shattering Blade. I just talked about this. You get the Razor Ice on your weapon, you get the huge Frost Strikes. It's clear why this is valuable. So again, you can just take the two-handed 45-second go build, and instead of having Chillstreak and Icebreaker, you just drop one or the other depending on what you're playing against. Melee Cleaves, you want to keep Chillstreak, so you drop Icebreaker. Wizard Cleaves, you want to drop Chillstreak, right? Because you want to keep Icebreaker, because Chillstreak is not going to have a lot of value, so you just do this. Boom, boom, boom. And that's all 3 builds that are all fantastic right now. A two-handed 45-second go, a two-handed all-in nuclear burst build, 1 minute go, a dual wield with Chillstreak, and a dual wield with Icebreaker. 4 builds, I guess. I said 3 because one of them is so close to each other. It's but 4 builds, if you want to say that. I'll link to all of them in the description below. And that's Frost in 10.0.7. Cool. I hope I explained that well enough. You know, I generally go so in depth with my explanations that sometimes it can be a little confusing. So I'll put in links and timestamps and everything I can do and answer any question you guys have to make sure that that made sense. Because I care about it making sense to you guys. Okay. So now, as promised, 10.1, hopium, copium, whatever you want to say, I am fine. But here's the good stuff. Frost is actually pretty okay right now. Fits into the meta. all those builds, you can either have a sustained build or a burst build, and they all have a lot of impact. They do good into reds. They do good into cleaves. They even have enough single target damage, and their go is so impressive that most healers can't deal with it. So even if it's a caster comp, you could just grip the healer to a caster and then just boom, right? Run them over, flatten them. Frost actually feels pretty good right now. And it's clear that DK has been getting chunked a little bit over the season. So I really think that they're trying to use this PvP talent rework to put some love back into the class. And they did with the Deathstrike physical wall, right? It's the 20% wall that you get when you press Deathstrike. That's clearly really impactful to our exact problem right now. They have to keep it in like that. If they do something, they're like, oh, sorry, this is too broken. They nerf it to 5% or whatever, you know, kind of like, because I get excited about it and then they nerf it. Yeah, that's going to be a huge problem because it won't do anything and it won't fix our issues. But if they actually keep it as a really impactful PvP talent, because that's the thing. DK is too fair right now. We got all of our stuff nerfed at the beginning, right? And red is kind of unfair right now. And arms went through an unfair period and DH went through an unfair period. But Frost kind of always felt like fair. So having something really impactful, yeah, you got to spend a PvP talent for it. Yeah, you got to be still death striking, which doesn't make you do any damage. But now at least you get something really impactful for that. They got to keep that in like that. So 20% wall, that's phenomenal to physical damage, which is our biggest weakness. And then the other PvP talents that should be coming out, DK is in such a great spot for that because all of our PvP talents are garbage. Like they're just, look at this. I mean, I've made this point before, but take a look. Okay. Wild, right. Death Chill, kind of just a fair thing for a root that costs 2 runes and removes our Chains of Ice. That's just too fair, right? We have to use a PvP talent to apply a root that takes 2 runes, 2 globals, and removes our Chains of Ice once we apply it, right? That's just like, okay, cool. All right, Shroud of Winter, too fair. It just reduces their range. They can deal with that. It's just too fair. Dark Sim, it's cool, it's really awesome, but it's a PvP talent slot for something that does one thing sometimes, right? Great players can make great use out of this, and still it's just kind of like fair. Judgments of the Pure for a week dispelled every single CC in the game off of your teammates. Dark Sim is a skill shot that gives you a poly, right? Like if you're even queuing into mage, right? A clone maybe, right? So it's fair. Dead of Winter is fair. It's a stun with a ramp up time, and it massively removes the damage of Remorseless Winter because it increases the cooldown by over double of what Remorseless was, right? So all of the talents that buff Remorseless Winter become a lot worse, right? When you're extending the cooldown by over double, right? That's fair. Spell Warden is now 25% effectiveness. That's like, okay. Rotten Wither, that's not fair, but it's not fair to us that it even exists, right? So if they're doing a PvP talent rework, I know I said this was going to be Hopium, and it looked like I was just bashing our class, but really, you can see that they're changing PvP talents massively for the classes that, like us, kind of have ours in a bad spot where they're just like, oh shit, all of these are just filler. They don't do anything, right? And that means it's only going to benefit us because if we have all these crap PvP talents to choose from, then all of them changing in the 10.1 rework is only going to be a benefit. I mean, look at this. We're going from Rotten Wither to a 20% physical wall. Yeah, that's what all the jumps are going to be like. We're going to go from Spell Warden to targeted AMS. We're going to go, who knows what they're going to replace. Death Chill, maybe Shroud of Winter. We have all these options. So what's the Hopium? I rambled a little bit again, but here it is. Frost feels pretty decent right now. It's got impactful globals. It's very powerful. It's got good control. It's got weaknesses for sure. I know that. But in the 10.1 rework, all of our trash PvP talents could be easily replaced with just less trash or just good PvP talents. And we would benefit heavily from that while keeping some of the power that we have now and adding it to a much improved 4 set that they just released. Check out Wowhead if you haven't seen that yet. And all of that, plus the tier piece that you get from 1800 and the other changes bringing maybe a little bit more life back to PvP should be a good thing for Frosty Ks everywhere. So there's my Hopium. I hope that helped in some way. And thank you guys for watching the incessant ramblings of an old man playing a 20-year-old video game. I hope you have a good day, and see ya.